and choose active projects, not my projects. It's in the second level menu next to over where it says 0 projects meet your criteria search term.
Oh yeah.
Click on select active projects.
Active, got it.
So there it is. So you can open it now.
Okay.
And you can claim it.
Claim. Okay.
Okay. Now this is when you would do the work to actually analyze the sources and prepare quote.
Mm-hmm.
So we want you to kind of mimic what you do for quoting in terms of when you're finished with all that work, you'd have a quote template, right?
Yep.
You'd have potentially a query doc.
Right.
And you need to scroll down into these quote tables and you need to input information.
Okay.
So go ahead and input some information. So you need to determine or assume what type of project this is going to be, because you'll have the different fields, whether there's going to be subtitling versus recording, on-screen text, whatever. So.
And this is where we would put the quote details.
This is where you input, yes, all the information that you have. So.
Okay.
Just make up some numbers and input some information.
All right. So let's go. Okay. So we'll call it a VO job. So.
Okay.
We'll do 1 at. Now this would be the sell rate, not the.
So the client, right? The client prices should be automatically populating from a price sheet because this is Lamar's company. There may well be no price sheet set up.
So I'll do 250.
Yeah. But normally you're not inputting any values into the rates. You're just inputting values into the quantities.
1 hour, and this would be a sell.
75.
75.
Common.
Okay, and then we'll do on-screen text. So we'll do 1 hour. What about words? We don't touch anything here, right?
Yeah, you would, right? So it's a video, and you've counted the minutes, and you've done 150 words per minute.
Okay.
Right, and you estimated the number of words in the OST, which is what you're typically doing at quote.
Right.
You tell them how many words it's going to be.
I'll just say it's a 1 minute video, so we'll say it's 200 words.
How many words of on-screen text?
I'm going to say 150 words a minute plus 50 words of OST.
Now, for what it's worth, for speed, if you go to the top of this screen, there's a tile called Apply Scope. Oh, you went past it. It's a little bit further down.
Further
Apply
up?
Scope. Yeah, further up. Apply Scope.
Right here. Got it.
Click that. You can type in the 200 words and you can apply it to all the languages at once.
Perfect. That's great. Okay.
And then you can just close that screen when it's done. It's done now. So.
Okay.
You can click any X or yeah.
Okay.
Just,
so that applies.
Now let's put the word counts into all the languages.
Great. Okay. So what about this data, Matt? Like the repetitions, which
you don't have any of it. We don't have it for multimedia, right? That stuff's not going to come out until you've actually prepped it and assets have been run against the transition memory for TM analysis.
Right. Okay.
And for typical multimedia projects, that happens after quote approval.
Right. Right. Okay. Then the other question would be so multimedia QA. Is this the leads time then?
That's everything.
Okay. So that would be the
inclusive of so the lead time. That's the interesting one, right? You have to decide where you're going to stick that in. In your quote, in your template, it's computing a certain number of hours for doing the different services.
Right.
The QA time and any of the service times, transcription, subtitling, sync, on-screen text, all of those can potentially include your lead time.
Yeah.
For checking the quality of the work. So it's really up to you guys to decide your process on how you're going to take that lead time and distribute it amongst these different fields when you fill out the quote.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So then what I'd say we'll probably bundle it in production. All right, so then we need to do, okay, so I thought I put time in here. And
you did, but the changes weren't submitted, so they didn't stick.
Got it, okay.
When I had you apply scope, it wiped them out, sorry.
1, we'll do 75, then we'll do professional 1 at 250, and then we'll do OST 1 at 75.
Yeah, so here where if you thought that there was, for example, another hour of lead time, you might choose to put 2 hours under OST.
Yeah.
Accounting for that second hour of lead time. That's not maybe not accounted for yet. It's up to you. The QA time, again, it would be Yeah, the QA time would be time spent actually like for linguistic resources to perform QA. And again, you could consider multimedia lead time in there if you wanted to. And also, if there's going to be a linguistic QA, there's going to be bug fixing, and that time has to be accounted for as well. So if the hour of on-screen text localization didn't include bug fixing, you need to add more time to make sure you're covering the bug fixing.
Okay, so this is kind of so before a PM would send a QA lead like a submission, and then they would deal directly with a QA lead for that.
This all depends on how the linguistic QA gets done, right?
Yeah, so I mean through the lab. So let's just say through the lab.
Okay, then yes, they would still need to fill it out somehow or another. It wouldn't be multimedia lead because you don't know how to guess that. So if it's done by a translator, again, you wouldn't know how many hours a translator would need to review the subtitled videos. Okay. But you would know, for example, if you need some engineering time under that bucket.
Right. Okay. So we would put our time, but not the QA lead's testing info. Okay. Let's just leave that part for that. That makes sense. Okay. All right. So so we got to do it per locale. So there's no function similar to Words that you can do.
Nope, there's not. But you see the button that says submit changes. You need to click that each time you change anything.
Submit
it
change.
becomes active, and that's what commits the changes.
Okay, so there's that one, and then we'll do the same thing here. Where were we? Okay, so professional. Let's see, 1 hour at 250. And we will do, where's audio sync? Oh, so weird, audio sync changed to a new spot.
Yeah, don't ask me why it's in a different location. Who knows?
75, and then we'll do OST 1 at 75. Submit changes.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So both are at $500. That's the sell, right?
And then on the top, if you go above the Chinese China, there's another CSG for engineering project setup. So you can change the service item, and you can add file prep time.
File prep.
Because there will be some, and then click the button, blue buttons that says add service item next to it.
Okay. Then we put in the file prep, whatever that is.
Yeah. Now this CSG is typically showing up under programs for like the loc engineering time to take the assets you've prepared and to do the word count analysis and create translation projects in a CAT tool.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily only used for that. You would know because of the rate, right? A lot of times that engineering rate is like $45 or $50 an hour. It's lower than the multimedia rate.
Okay.
So if that's what you're seeing in a customer's setup, then you probably your kit prep time would land under the other fields, transcription, on-screen text, whatever. So this is going to have to do with how you choose to map your quote template details into summaries and where you guys will input those summaries into these client service items.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's something you guys have to figure out.
So I'm going to call that as our, transcription, whatever file prep for translation, pre-translation stuff. I'm going to put there for now. But yeah, we'll look at that mapping part. All right, so that is all of that.
Right, so now you'd also have some assets you'd need to upload. So if you go to the Files view, which is Option 2 on your keyboard, or click it on the left navigation for Files, I would expect as a standard practice, you would be doing things like you would upload a copy of your quote template as a reference file.
Yep.
So go ahead and do that. Just grab the quote template from whatever and drag and drop it into the reference files, add files here.
Add files here. Got it right there.
That box, yeah. Because that's going to be a key reference.
So now, I'm sorry, are we actually loading files, or are we just sharing links to share file?
This will be an actual loaded file.
Okay.
Okay, so I just thought I loaded something. Let's see what happens.
It's there. See, it says displaying one of two files. It says type reference content in a file name.
Quote template. Okay, got it.
So there it is.
All right.
Yep. Now, is there any other typical asset? Do you typically have a query doc?
There can be, yes, if they're, like a bomb, as we could put that there too.
Okay, so go ahead and drag and drop that to reference files as well.
All right, let me just find something here.
Something you can drop in there. And in terms of how you're normally quoting a video with on-screen text, at the quoting stage, are you ever producing any type of storyboard, or does that happen after quoting?
Yes, an OST storyboard, and I do have one actually I can put in there right
Okay,
now.
that would, I would think that would be considered as a work file then, not a reference file.
It's so there's two
You
parts.
tell me.
We put it together to confirm with the client what's in scope. We're assuming that all of these on-screen text instances are in scope, but they need to confirm yes or no, because so that is actually part of similar, like part of what we'd said with the quote.
But I would
Like-
put that in as a work file.
As a work file, okay.
'Cause
So that would go right
What can
here.
happen is, yeah, drag and drop to the work
Okay.
files. What can happen is, if that's something that the project manager needs to act on when they send the quote, they'll find it quickly as a work file.
Okay.
And then once everything's settled and the quote's approved, it's easy enough to just change the type of that file to become a reference file,
Okay. Okay.
so that it doesn't confuse the next step. If the next step is somebody actually produces a time-stamped and segmented storyboard, you wouldn't
Yeah.
want them to grab that incorrect file, right? So,
Yeah, so this is what that would look like. So let me just
Okay.
drag that over. So that is in there. But yeah, we will put a note on the SOP on that for sure. All right, so Matt, all of those are in there. What else? We could also put a link here to share file if we wanted to.
no, this is for deliverables.
Okay.
If you're adding links to share file, it's going to be under the reference files or the work files,
Okay.
where you can click and it says link to files
Link file.
in that white box.
Oh, got it right here. Got it right
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
so we can put it
either
in
way, either way.
All right.
And again, whatever your SOP is going to be, whether you guys are always going to put the quote templates and stuff on a share file path and send a link, or whether you're going to attach them to the project as files, it doesn't matter. It's up to you.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So
Okay.
from here, what's next?
So if you've input all the information,
Yep.
do you have any additional notes or feedback for the project manager?
We would
If
do a
you-
handoff back, like basically a
There's
summary.
no handoff. There's no emails,
I mean, not
right?
handoff.
Yeah. So if you had something else, what you do is over on the right side, at the top, near the top of the relay screen, there's a little arrow pointing to the left. It's
Right
a little
side,
gray
right?
arrow next to the scroll bar. Yeah, you click that. That opens up a right pane. If you scroll down, there's usually a place to write project notes. So if you needed to communicate something to the PM, you can add notes here. These notes go with the project. They don't get emailed. Someone has to open this to view them, but this is kind of the best method we've got when we're trying to not use email and another system, right? Because the whole goal of the system is we keep the work inside the system. We don't also do a bunch of emailing outside of the system. So if you had notes, you could type them here.
Yeah. We would always confirm the quotes, assumptions basically on back to the PM in an email. So this is where we could put some notes of what our understanding is. We would have some questions possibly about stylistic stuff, like, if this is subtitling, what type of font, what type of, subtitling style do we want to do? There
Hopefully
would be.
that's covered in their request form, right?
It is in there, but we don't always.
Okay.
So like, for example, let me see if I have something to show you what we would
So
send
I
back.
understand. We can keep moving
Yeah.
forward. So this will take some
Yeah.
time anyway. So.
Yeah.
So just put some text, make a note.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you be gobbledygook.
Options, whatever. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's
so Make
that.
sure you
and then-
submit your note so it
Okay.
gets committed to the project.
Got it. Okay. What else?
All right.
This has a
That just shows you a different view of the files.
notes.
And then-
okay, so there's a note. You can see kind of
Yep.
the history there. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So-
All right.
Okay, so then here in the main view, there's a couple of instructions that you need to mark as following. They're above the blue submit button. See, the blue submit button is not active because you have uncompleted instructions.
Okay. So we
So-
confirmed the source file language.
Okay.
We assigned the quantities to each service, right?
Okay.
And
Yep.
then we submit.
Yep, and you'll input the time you spent on doing that quote.
Click here to go to quote page. What does that do? Does that show
Nothing
us
for
what's-
you.
Okay.
That would just read. I mean, you can do it if you want to. It's just the same as option 1. It reloads the quote view.
Okay.
Right now you're still in the files view. So
All right.
in case you wanted to double check your values and really confirm things, you could. That's just a shortcut. That's all.
Okay, submit.
So when you click submit, a dialog will pop up to ask you to input the time you spent doing this scoping. And then save and complete, and that's it. Now it goes to
Okay.
quote approval, which is normally a project manager's action.